I saw that over in Georgia, a state legislator has introduced a bill that would bar, or a new law that would bar Muslim women from wearing burqas and veils while driving on public roads, and they couldn't put on the traditional headgear for photos used on Georgia's driver's licenses. And that's a very controversial proposal. I want to talk to Byron Henry. Byron's been on our show. He's kind of our resident legal scholar, constitutional scholar. He's a Dallas lawyer with Scheef Stone. SolidCounsel.com is his website. We want to pick his brain and see what he thinks. Hey, Byron, glad you joined us again on the Common Sense Show.
Glad to be with you.
By the way, you got a new is that your first grandchild? Here, you got a new grandbaby in the family.
Yes, I just born yesterday at 11:45 in the morning, Naomi Rose.
Well, that's wonderful. Got a little gal. That's fine. Well, they hopefully you have a lot more. I've got 6, and so hopefully you'll have a lot more there, Byron. So, listen, I want you to get your comment on that law about apparently it's very controversial, particularly in the Muslim community over in Georgia, about women who wearing the burqas and the veils, and particularly head covering attire for the photos on Georgia's driver's licenses. I don't, and I agree with Georgia on that, and especially with the driver's license, you ought to be able to take a picture of the whole person's face. Constitutionally, how legal is it to make a law like that, do you think?
Well, there's a couple things to look at in these situations. And first of all, you have to wonder, just as a general matter, that this issue hasn't come up sooner, how many devout practicing Muslim women that wear burqas all the time are out driving on the roads or getting driver's licenses in the first place. So that may be one reason that we have not had this issue come up. But now that it has come up, we can discuss it in the context of basically two frameworks. One, is it a law that's targeting a specific religion or a specific sex or a specific type of head covering? Or is it just a general law which makes people have to basically expose their faces when they're either in public places or getting their driver's license photo taken? Generally, meaning it applies to any type of mask, any type of hat, any type of headgear of any type, then that would probably be okay. But if you start targeting it towards just females or just adherence to a specific religion, or you tailor the law so that it affects only, no matter how neutral you make it, it only really affects religious headgear, then you're going to have a problem under the Constitution. I don't think that's the way this law was drafted, although it's been reported that way. I believe that this law was more designed as just a neutral prohibition on facial coverings and headgear for taking photos and in other public places. And I think the sponsor of the bill said that he meant that to mean public spaces, not out in public, but like in public buildings, where it's important to be able to identify people such as courthouses and whatnot.
Yeah, I would think there's a legitimate public interest, particularly, let's start with the driver's license. You're taking a picture of somebody. You want to see their entire face. You don't want to have it cut off at the forehead and on the sides for identification purposes, for police and for security. And my gut reaction, and I'm a lawyer, not the constitutional scholar that you are, I would think that would hold up. Now, as far as not wearing burqas or veils while driving, I mean, it seems like that might be getting more towards profiling Muslim women, because I can wear a hat and earmuffs or in the winter, you wear a hat stand over your head. I guess I could wear a clown face if I wanted to while driving on public roads. So if you don't prohibit that kind of thing, you're kind of getting close to crossing the line if you specifically deal with veils and burqas. Was that a fair analysis? What do you think?
Certainly that's a good analysis, and I would say that in the context of driving, I think you're probably exactly correct on whether or not you could ban it while you're driving. The only question is for safety purposes, and this is why the law would apply to driving, if at all, and that is if a police officer or other law enforcement officer stops you and approaches your vehicle, he has to have a mechanism by which he can know who he's addressing and identify the recipient when he asks for the person he's actually stopping when he asks for their identification. So as long as it's generally neutral, that a person can ask someone to remove a facial covering or a mask or a burqa or any other type of of garb or headdress or cap that hides someone's identity or would obscure their identity, as long as that's neutral, then I think it would be questionable whether you could say they couldn't drive with it on, but whether or not someone had the right to ask them to remove it if they were out in public and driving and had a driver's license, and a police officer needed to identify that person at a traffic stop. And that's where I think would be a little bit dicey. But as long as it's applied equally to everybody, I think the law would withstand constitutional muster.
I got you. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because especially with the Trump direction he's taking in terms of immigrants coming in, and some things he said about Muslims, you might see that the support along those lines. So there's going to be some fine constitutional issues that I'm certainly will end up in court one way or the other. So I'm glad you put that perspective for us there. I would think that the changes with the new president are going to create a number of constitutional issues that lawyers like yourself will have to get into and to address, especially you live in the Dallas area, a state like Texas, that to many of your folks over there, they want to secede from the Union, so you may have a chance to deal with some of these constitutional issues. Isn't that true over your way?
That's true. Well, I think you would find out here that they were getting awful close, but I think with the results of the election and the way some other things have gone, they're willing to give it a shot and stick around for a little while longer. With respect to the headgear and whatnot, I would just say this, that there are a lot of law enforcement tools that can be used that are neutrally applicable and constitutional without targeting specific groups directly. We're not to a place yet where I think we need to start creating registries and passing laws that only apply to people of certain religions. We could get to that someplace in the future in this country, but under our Constitution and the case laws that exist now, law enforcement is given a wide variety of tools that they can apply for our safety at the state, local, and federal level without targeting specific groups of people by religion or by sex or otherwise. And for now, we should stick with those tools until they prove to be inadequate.
Well, I think it's a good summary in terms of where we are. There's nothing wrong with some of these constitutional challenges that may give us some direction and clean out some misunderstandings. And so, if Trump upends the norm, and some people think he or his representatives have crossed the line, that's what the courts are for. The lawyers aren't all that bad a guy. Shakespeare said, "Kill all the lawyers," but we lawyers need to be a part of this whole debate. On the national debate, and you're certainly in the middle of it as a constitutional lawyer yourself. So, well, Byron, listen, good luck to you. Congratulations on that new baby, and the grandbaby, and I hope we can talk to you again here in the near future. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure.
Okay, take care. Byron Henry with the law firm of Scheef Stone in Dallas, Texas, solidcounsel.com, putting into perspective some of these interesting constitutional issues. Gosh, there's been a whole slew of them under Obama, primarily, Leo, ratcheted up by Republicans. Now you're probably going to see the Democrats putting out a number of challenges constitutionally, don't you think?